Boy, I love reading those WikiLeaks. Donald Trump, November 4th, 2016. Will any of those quotes disturb you?
Problematic is an understatement.
To you. I turn now to a very special guest. I'm about to go to Malcolm Nance. Let me give you the context.
My man.
There was hours of careful and legal testimony today, and then there was a kind of a wow moment when Mueller took out his version of his careful, methodical, rhetorical 2x4 and said Donald Trump was boosting illegal activity linked to Russia.
This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove. Donald Trump, October 31st, 2016. Boy, I love reading those WikiLeaks. Donald Trump, November 4th, 2016. Will any of those quotes disturb you?
Problematic is an understatement in terms of what it displays, in terms of giving some, hope or some boost to what is and should be illegal activity.
I am joined by intelligence analyst Malcolm Nance. What did that moment mean?
That moment meant that 3 years ago in one day, today, WikiLeaks was the leading edge of an attack on the United States, and Robert Mueller recognized that Donald Trump's amplification, praise of WikiLeaks, and encouragement within his campaign, using people who were in communications with them, knowing that this was already popularly being called in media a Russian intelligence operation, that he didn't care and that his actions were unpatriotic, and certainly they didn't fall in the realm of criminality within this probe, but certainly not something any American should engage in.
And you lay it out like that, and this is why we wanted to turn to this piece, because so much in Washington is about, does it hurt or help a given side? And how does it look? And how does it play? And Bob Mueller, from covering him, strikes me as someone who doesn't care, which is precisely why he is credible on these issues over the long haul and has disappointed various political factions at various moments. So with that in mind, Malcolm, take a look at this exchange where what does Bob Mueller really care about? Where does he become more animated? It's the idea that Russia continues to do this during a backdrop where everyone knows the current administration isn't exactly out there preventing it at all times.
Is this, in your investigation, did you think that this was a single attempt by the Russians to get involved in our election, or did you find evidence to suggest they'll try to do this again?
No, it wasn't a single attempt. They're doing it as we sit here. And they expect to do it during the next campaign.
Give us the intelligence reasoning why, again, as I've mentioned tonight, Bob Mueller can sit there and actually make what we would call forward-looking statement. An estimate or a prognostication here in the intelligence section, which I know, you know, he would never do during the obstruction hearing. He would never say, well, if someone lied to us a bunch, I predict they'll commit a crime again. Such a different approach. Walk us through the intel of that.
You know, the part of this report that none of us truly knows the depth of is the intelligence, the counterintelligence component of this. And the reason that a lot of questions weren't answered today, and I saw them, they were black holes, as we call in the intelligence community. Information that should be there, all the gravity's moving towards it, and we're not seeing that answer. Like the discussion about Professor Joseph Massoud. Mueller didn't want to touch that because out there is this FBI apparatus that is still hunting spies or suspected spies within within this investigation. So that being said, he was animated on this point because these are real threats to the United States. These are things which can actually hurt us. He was hobbled on the legal side. There was only so much he can do. He's an institutionalist. He played to that institution with regards to the OLC memo, but with regards to counterintelligence, he doesn't want to talk about it. He just wants the National Security Division of the FBI to go out and start rolling up people or start breaking up plots, which we may never hear about.
Stay with me. I see John Flannery nodding to what you're saying.
Well, I think that what he's saying is spot on. You asked about his energy about that issue. I think that he feels that it's urgent because it is now. And I thought he broke a little bit with his pattern by saying this is going on now. That's certainly beyond his report. So it is an emergency, and it makes you understand that if this is going on now and 2020 is approaching us, then the obstruction makes a lot of sense because we have to keep a lid on this so we can steal the next election.
And Malcolm, there's another thing that happened here where a lot, they say sometimes the most interesting stuff can be in the footnotes because it's where there's a little more reaching. There was also what was unsaid but implied, and I'd like your analysis on this because, look, Director Mueller is not interested, former Director Mueller, former Special Counsel Mueller, isn't interested in holding forth on his views of everything Donald Trump's ever done. That makes him different, for example, than other senior federal officials, including James Comey, who've really given their views as private citizens. He didn't want to do that. And yet, look at this exchange where he seems to, from a security perspective, very clearly say, oh, it matters if Donald Trump was actively campaigning for a huge Russian business deal and hid it and lied about it and did that. And this is where, I said in fairness to the White House earlier, here in skepticism of the White House, you can't complain about an investigation taking time when you're lengthening it by piling up the lies. Take a look.
When the president said he had no business dealings with Russia, in fact, he was seeking to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, is he not?
I think there is some question about when this was accomplished.
Well, you would consider a $1 billion deal to build a tower in Moscow to be business dealings, wouldn't you, Director Mueller?
Yeah, absolutely.
Malcolm.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. What Robert Mueller was not tasked with in this investigation was determining whether Donald Trump was compromised by Vladimir Putin himself, whether he's being handled by Russian intelligence, whether all of this was an elaborate 30-year dangle, which was being used because of Donald Trump's interest since 1988 to get a Moscow tower where he would make hundreds of millions, perhaps as much as $1 billion in profit. Mueller was not tasked with sussing that out. But he obviously has an opinion about it because that would go to all of the things which were alleged here. And as he mentioned in part 2 of the report, why he would lie about it and obstruct justice when it was not under his purview.
Right, which is the connective tissue between the morning and the afternoon. As you say, not his purview. Volume 1, of course, doesn't close the circle on some of what you just alluded to. And yet we just came out of a press conference with the Speaker of the House saying this is precisely some of the financial stuff still under investigation. And we're speaking on a week where the president rather blatantly, openly is saying foreign governments should give his companies money by hosting the G7 summit. I mean, that would be a huge scandal for any other president. Obviously, we're just mentioning it in passing with a lot of other scandals. Malcolm, Nance, thank you. My special thanks to Joyce Vance, John Flannery, and Sophia Nelson, part of our special coverage tonight. Really invaluable.